Caroline, Lonnie standing by. Let's begin with Lonnie Chen. Clearly a divided room tonight. What stood out to you in his speech?
Well, a few things. I do think it was a divided room. I think there were times where, frankly, the lack of response from Democrats seemed a little petulant when, for example, celebrating the return of an American hostage or the apprehension of a significant terrorist threat. But, I think we expected a certain amount of division. What was noteworthy to me was there was actually a lot of policy in the speech, whether you liked it or not, discussion of tariffs, of tax policy, of bringing an end to the hostility in Ukraine. So I do think that what we saw tonight it felt a little bit like a campaign speech. I think there was some of that analysis earlier. And certainly the president to kind of reiterating a lot of what he talked about on the campaign trail, but nothing particularly surprising tonight. Some people thought, well, maybe he would have some surprise that would come out tonight. I think most of the policy is stuff we've heard before, but certainly, again, reinforcing some of the key goals of his administration going forward.
All right. And Caroline, what do you make of the vibes in the room? Any surprise to you? And how do both sides move forward?
There's the million-dollar question. We have seen this sort of raucous British-style politics for the last few State of the Union addresses. If you recall, in 2023 and 2024, Biden faced a lot of callback and yelling from Republicans, although nothing like we saw tonight. It was very unusual. Not only historic to have someone removed, but there was also, as Trump was coming into the chamber, a Republican member of Congress batted out a sign that said, "This is not normal," from a Democratic member's hands. We just saw a lot more contention in that room than we typically do. And we also saw members leaving early. So we saw personalized signs from Rashida Tlaib, a representative who, when Trump was talking about taxes, said, "Start by paying your taxes." So the partisanship was just palpable in that room. But Donald Trump, he was on his game. It felt like a campaign speech, a lot of humor.
Yeah, we're listening to some of that speech just in the background. He even got emotional toward the end. So maybe the single biggest issue that won the election for President Trump, the economy, and specifically inflation. Trump said he was working to make prices more affordable, blaming former President Biden for things like the high price of eggs. And then take a look at this. According to a CBS News poll from last week, 77% of Americans say their income is not keeping up with inflation. Tonight, the president championed his sweeping tariffs against our largest trading partners and said that next month he will be even more aggressive in imposing tariffs.
April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in, and whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them.
Recent CBS News poll, nearly 3/4 of Americans said tariffs would make prices higher. So, Caroline, I'm going to start with you. What do you think of the president doubling down on this and his particular strategy?
Well, Lonnie is right that Trump brought up a lot of policy in this speech, but I don't think he did what he needed to do on the economy, which was far and away the number one issue in the election. So tariffs, as you noted in this poll, majority of Americans are aware that that is essentially another word for tax. And he didn't sell this idea. I thought maybe he'd do like short-term pain, long-term gain, even though there's not even good reliable data that that's the case if we get into a trade war. But he didn't even do that. He just made general claims. And at the end of the day, we have the CEOs of Target and Best Buy and others coming out saying that prices will go up as early as next week. And prices are going to go up at the gas pump because Canada, we just slapped a 10% tariff on energy and we import 60% of our crude oil from them. Our prices of groceries will go up because of the 25% tariffs on products coming from Mexico. It is astounding that Donald Trump actually passed these tariffs. It's something that the very conservative Wall Street Journal called dumb. Their words, not mine. I don't know how he plans to sell this to the American public, but he did not sell it tonight.
All right, let's get to another point in the speech. Trump also spent a significant amount of time praising Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, rattling over alleged instances of waste and fraud that DOGE has cut. Now, CBS News has already debunked a number of those claims. But in the big picture, Lonnie, DOGE has run into some resistance. Republicans have certainly faced a lot of questions about the scale of these cuts. Do you think there is a concern that the backlash could actually hamper the administration later on?
Well, I think a lot of this depends on where the discussion goes in terms of some of these cuts. I mean, obviously, we've seen some departments hit. We've seen a lot of degradation around, for example, USAID, which is the agency that provides funding for international development around the world from the U.S. And I think a lot of it just depends on kind of how far, how deep, and how quick these cuts are. But I will say this. I think the fundamental issue around DOGE and what they're trying to do is to create non-incremental change. This president has bragged and talked about the degree to which he is looking to change the way that the federal government does business. And in that sense, I think DOGE has been going after a class of people in federal bureaucrats and federal workers that for many Americans, are not particularly sympathetic. I think the question is going to be, will there be an impact on services? And when there's an impact, or if there's an impact on services, that's when I think you're going to start to see the popularity of what DOGE is doing begin to really backfire potentially on the administration. So again, it's a question of where these cuts go, how extensive they are, and what the outcome of them is.
All right, Lonnie and Caroline, thank you both so much for your input tonight, and we'll follow up with you later on in our newscast. Thank you again.